What's up guys, it is Dan from FightWave. Hopefully you guys are having a fantastic day, and today's guest, a regular on your FightWave schedule programming, somebody who has shown the channel and page nothing but love since he first came on, a few years back, and has done absolutely incredible things. And make no mistake, is still one of the most promising, I want to say, additions to the UFC in recent memory. He's a superstar coming out of South Africa. He's done absolutely incredible things, going on a 3-0 start to kickstart his UFC career, and while he has a 2-fight skid, he's looking to bounce back in incredible fashion this weekend at UFC Kansas City against Malcolm Wallmaker. Some might know him as South Africa's Golden Boy, some might know him as MSP, but on FightWave, we know him as Mr. Cameron Saaiman. Cameron, thank you so much for your time, brother. How has everything been, my man? Holy smokes, it has been a year since we last spoke. We just spoke off air. Time has flown by. How are you doing?
A year later and you're still the king of intros, so thank you for that. I really appreciate it. It's good to be back. It's been more than a year, and everything feels so familiar, which I think is a very good sign. It's good to be in fight week. Everything, the preparation coming into this fight has been close to perfect. So I'm happy. I'm happy to be here with my team. So I can't wait to put on a performance come fight night.
Definitely, and especially, against another incredible opponent. I've got to say, one thing I love about you, Cameron, is you don't shy away from testing yourself and facing the toughest guys in the UFC. Talk to me just a little bit about this year away. Of course, a year away, really, just dealing with some injuries, and then, also doing some other stuff outside of fighting. How has this kind of year off been for you in terms of being able to really just level up as not just a martial artist, but also as a human in the fight game and just in life as a whole?
Yeah, you kind of nailed it on the head. I think when you go through adversity, when you go through losses, you need to take a step back and really reevaluate your approach and how you do certain things. The loss to Peyton Talbot was not only made me a better athlete, but it made me a better human. And I do believe that coming into this fight night, that I can look back at a year and be super proud of myself and the effort that we've put into to make adjustments. So yeah, it's been cool to it hasn't been easy. I'm going to tell you that it's been a tough year in terms of adversity and going through a bunch of not only emotions but going through, like you said, injuries and dealing with that as well. So I'm super blessed to be able to be here. It's a privilege to be in this situation. It's a privilege to work through those adversities. So I'm very happy that I get to come to fight nights. I'm happy that I get to diet and cut weight and make championship weight. I can't wait to do that as well. And it's just been an awesome year. You quickly reevaluate your circles as well, and I have a rock solid circle. My teammates have been amazing through this process. My head coach, we have Martin van Staden, who's a training partner. He's here with us on the trip. It's been just awesome to be back, and I'm really looking forward to showing what we've done this year, because I'm gonna get 15 minutes to show you guys, and it's not gonna last 15 minutes.
Absolutely. And you talk about just taking back some time and really just having a rock solid group. I feel like in a moment like that, everyone always talks about it. In those adversities and moments of, just character defining moments, you have those people around you that show who's really there for you and who's kind of there for, the spectacle of it all. And I feel like when you have a team like CIT backing you, it's hard to say that many of those people are going to fall out of line. You've got an incredible
Yeah.
head coach in the form of Mornay Visser. You've got incredible teammates in the form of, current UFC middleweight champion Dricus Du Plessis and a lot of the other guys that fight out of CIT. What's kind of just the moments been like in the gym, being able to pick their brains, being able to, obviously Dricus has had his fair share of adversities and look at where he's gotten to now. When you talk about having those people in your corner that have faced similar things as you have, what has that meant like for you just to be able to pick their brains in those moments?
Yeah, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I get to stand on the shoulders of giants, so I have a very good structure in terms of there's a lot of life experience in our gym. I think our head coach has lived many lives, so he has a lot of wisdom to share with the team, and it's been awesome. I think it has drawn me closer the year away, and working through a few things, and also having a bunch of other stuff that is super important and close to my heart that we've been working on in the past year has just reaffirmed my love for fighting. I love being here in this position. I love coming into fight week. I've loved the process of coming back into a fight, so I'm obsessed with it. And everything revolved around that. When it comes to dieting, sleeping, peak performance, it's something that I love. And just getting the opportunity to fall back on something that you love, I can't ask for anything more than that. And then on top of that, you have these teammates, like Martin van Staden, who's here with me. He has more than 40 professional fights. That's experience. You can't buy that experience. It's not gonna fall out of the sky. So it's been lived, and just having him here for as an example has been just a testament of what we've gone through and how we are approaching this fight camp. So it's been really cool to lean on guys like Drickus, like head coach Mornay Visser, Henny, Martin. It's been awesome, and Neil Geyser, a coach back home, and he can't be yet with this camp, but next camp he's definitely coming with. It's been cool to really um, kind of pick the brains of the guys that have been there all along, making us better athletes, and in doing so, making us better human beings. It's I'm very blessed.
And you just talked a little bit about the routine. You talk about almost like falling in love with that routine, and of course, when you do it for so long, and then you have a year where you're kind of taken away from some elements of that routine, it's almost foreign. It is foreign territory, I should say.
Yeah.
And then you come back into it, and I feel like for you, one thing I've really seen, I've really enjoyed is, like you said, being around your teammates, being involved in their careers. I know you had a teammate that fought for the Risen title a few weeks back or a few months back, and you were just, you're always supporting your guys, you're always being involved, and I love how involved you are, especially with your promotion versus Fight Night, and just being able to be a prominent force in South African mixed martial arts. So even when you're not fighting, you're doing something that keeps you so heavily involved in MMA. Talk to me a little bit about that, just doing other things outside of your own career that keep you involved in this sport. And like you said, you love this sport in every fiber, just being able to add layers to it and contribute to it.
Yeah, anybody that knows me knows that I don't like I really don't like just training, going home, watching movies, and then training again. I like to keep busy, and I have a massive love and passion for the sport. So, like Versus has been a baby of ours that we've been growing over the past few years, and we get to do something bigger than ourselves. We get to invest time and effort into building a platform for future talents in Africa and South Africa. We've just had a amazing fight night where we had guys from Zambia, Cuba, Angola. We had a bunch of talent from right across Africa and from overseas coming in to fight. So it's been awesome to also focus a little bit on that. It's something that we look to continuously grow, and it's been amazing. And in that business, we also have amazing partners. So when I get to come here, I get to solely focus on fighting, and we have a lot. Much smarter people keeping the ship afloat back in South Africa. So it's stuff like that has really also just fueled the passion for the sport, and it's when we go into a fight camp that vision kind of just gets tunnel visioned in a sense, and we focus on what needs to be done for this fight. And it's been really cool to it's been fun to be tunnel visioned. It's been fun to be focusing a bit on myself, just on myself, on my preparation, on what I need to do to come out on fight night and give the performance of a lifetime.
Definitely. And then you talk about a lot about just the support in South Africa not waning one bit. It feels like from when you and Drickus got inserted into the UFC scene to, even earlier before when Don Madge was fighting to now, you've got up and comers like Mark Hume in the gym also doing incredible things. it feels like that support hasn't waned one bit. It's been at pretty much 95 to 100% every step of the way, and that's probably the biggest thing I've recognized in my time run. Like, there's three certainties in life: death, taxes, and South African fans giving it their absolute all in this life. They all
Yeah.
are giving it 110%, standing behind their guys. Even, in your adversities and shortcomings, the comment sections were flooded with nothing but support. And these fans will go through, hell and back pretty much for their guys. So when you talk about that support and the continuous growth of MMA in South Africa, how excited are you just to have one of the best fan bases at the helm of what you do and what you love?
South African sports fans as general are some of the best fans in the world. It's been amazing. I've felt the love through this camp and through this fight week. You can feel there's a newfound energy, and it's really cool. It's really cool to see that even though you take off a year, I had hundreds of messages every single week of people just asking when are you coming back. So it's been amazing, and I really do apologize for the people that I do not answer. I'm actually quite trash at replying to messages, but it's been awesome to see that they not only recognize you and your talents, but they recognize your efforts. And I think that the average fight fan has become smarter in that sense. Like they have a sense of empathy or sympathy for what you go through, with a fight camp, with a weight cut, with the fight itself. So it's been very cool to see South African fight fans really get into the sport. And obviously with Dricus's success, it just skyrocketed. Now we have 74-year-old ladies that have never watched sports in general. Now they watch fighting. So it's really cool to see.
Definitely. And then, you talk a lot about just seeing what's been going on. I know there's obviously a lot kind of floating around right now with Dricus, outside of fighting. There's obviously a lot of news right now at the moment of recording this interview surrounding, his status for a high profile bout, which I don't know if we can speak about or whatnot. But I guess going back to another point, because when I spoke with Dricus last year, he brought up a very good point. I got to give you guys credit where credit is due. You guys probably make the unpopular decision amongst fans, but probably one of the smartest business decisions. And you guys truly do not go into the octagon unless you are 110% or as close to 100% as possible. I know he had the injury prior to the Izzy fight that kind of kept him out for a little bit of time to his leg, staying off the mats and whatnot. And I feel like same thing for you, just kind of trying to make sure that you're as close to 100% from injury as possible getting into the fight. So talk to me a little bit about just making those calculated decisions in part of your career, and just being able to do those and not pretty much fear what the public backlash is going to be.
Yeah, I think that's one of the main lessons out of my career. I think we fought with less than ideal circumstances. Let's call it that. We've committed to fights where we didn't really have to. But as you go along, you learn these things. And I think that's something that he does very, very well. You're not going to be fighting. Some might consider one of the greatest middleweights in the world, if you really have injuries. And Dricus is actually the first one to. He'll try and figure something out. Like he is really, even if he's injured, he's going to try and get to that date. But if you have an extent of an injury, or you have a team, or even like the medical personnel of the UFC advising you not to fight, then at the end of the day, you're going to have to make a call at some point. And coming into any fight, I think people also forget the 8 to 12 weeks of training that you have to go through to get to that fight. And if you know anything about CIT and how we train, it's not for the faint-hearted. So it's been something that Drickus had to go through, that I had to go through, where you are happy in your heart and you are comfortable with not only approaching the fight, but approaching the fight camp and really doing it to 100%. And it's so funny. I think Connor Matthews, he posted to his Instagram, and I had a good chuckle because after one of his fights, he just said, like, I don't know if you know this, but fighting in the UFC is really hard. And I just it was such a simple sentence, but it's like, you are fighting killers. Everyone that fights here are the best fighters in the world, So if you want to approach that camp and you want to approach that fight, you want to do it to the best of your abilities. You want to give 100% effort and intention to your fight camp, and you want to do that while not dragging along injuries. So at the end of the day, people can say what they want, but the loudest mouths aren't the guys fighting in the cage, so they can keep on saying what they want. Will you get the best performances every single time from us? We're gonna definitely do that. We're gonna give our 110% every single time.
Definitely. I think effort is something you cannot take away from Team CIT, especially when you look at what you guys have done in the octagon in such a short amount of time in the UFC. Definitely cannot take anything away there. And especially for you, I cannot say one thing I gotta say is I am so happy that this fight is actually in front of a crowd. It feels like it's been a
Yeah,
travesty to see you fighting in the Apex the last two back to back. It feels like a
yeah,
crime. So when you talk about now, like, pretty much the UFC, I guess, recognizing those efforts, recognizing that what South Africa brings to the table, recognizing that, hey, these guys are for real. When they come into the octagon, they give it 110%. How excited are you to fight in front of a full crowd in a new city, more importantly, that isn't Las Vegas? Not to say
yeah.
Vegas is bad, but KC is, obviously a new belly of the beast.
Yeah, 100%. I have a good track record in front of fans, So let's continue these arena events. I think I'm a arena fighter. I prefer that than in the Apex. So if we can continue with this with a stellar performance, I'm gonna definitely just ask them nicely to keep on booking me in front of crowds. But it is awesome. Kansas City has been amazing. We've been here for, I think it's 9 or 10 days now already. So we came in super early just to prepare. And it's awesome to be here. It's a beautiful city. The people have been just so nice and generous. And I think come fight night, there's going to be a very cool energy in town. I think it's going to be really, really cool. And I think that's what I need. I need to feed off that energy in the cage. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. We are 3-0 in arenas. So yeah, let's continue that momentum.
Definitely. And Cameron, I gotta say one more thing. When you talk about taking a year off, most fighters when they take off a year, they're like, oh, it's like a big part of their career, but you're still so young into your career. I think that's one of the biggest advantages is starting MMA so early on in your career, and then especially being the age that you are, a year off to level up. It really does wonders for a lot of the fighters, and the UFC is only getting younger. You look at the
Yeah.
bantamweight division right now. It is incredibly young. It is incredibly youthful, full of life. So when you talk about being one of the younger guys still in this division with the track record that you have, going into your sixth fight in the UFC, which is it's crazy to say. We got
Mm.
fighters that are like Raul Rosas so young, yourself so young, going into the UFC and doing these things. How incredible is it just to see the accomplishments amongst the youth, being able to be a part of that young generation coming in and showing, we're not here just to have one fight a year maybe and be built up like a developmental piece, but we're here to be contenders and we're here to win championships.
Yeah, I'm probably the only 24-year-old that Joe Rogan has ever called a veteran, So I think I'm gonna keep that. It's cool. It's weird. It's kind of weird to be honest. It's I don't think you see yourself as your age. I think you see yourself as an athlete that is here to compete with the best in the world. And I think sometimes we forget that. We forget that there's a lot of life to be lived. There's a lot of learning and experiences that need to be had. And I think this year off has been that. I've learned a lot. I think I've grown out of adversity, out of losing fights. And I'm super grateful and fortunate to be in that position where I get to learn, because now I get to really put everything to the test come fight nights, and it's just been awesome. This is going to be my sixth fight in the UFC, and saying that at 24 years old, I don't think a lot of guys can say that. So I'm in a privileged. I'm in a very privileged position. I'm super blessed to be here, and I'm gonna show my appreciation come fight night.
Absolutely. And then, Cameron, I got to say, first and foremost, thank you so much for your time, brother. I think this is our third or fourth interview together. And every
Yeah,
time I get to speak with you, it is seriously a privilege to speak to the CIT boys and just get to pick your brains and just to get to see the continuous evolution of what you guys are doing in South Africa from being, a country that wasn't an MMA mainstay at one point in time, maybe one
mm,
or two fighters, to now several, maybe dozens, maybe upwards of 50 fighters across all major promotions. It's incredible
yeah,
to see what CIT continues to do in paving the way. And I've got to ask you, of course, about your opponent, Malcolm Wallmaker. Like I said at the beginning of this interview, the UFC does not do you any favors in terms of giving you easy matchups. They give you the other guys that they know are poised to make a run in the division. How do you see this
yeah.
fight against Malcolm? And then, I guess, just what are your goals for the year and your message to the supporters at home?
Yeah, giving me an opponent like Malcolm is a compliment. He's really good. So, I think the matchmakers have some faith in our ability, in our team's ability, and then obviously in my fighting skills. So, coming into those fights, we knew Malcolm primarily comes from a type of boxing background. We see he mixes up his Muay Thai, his elbows, his knees quite well. Generally a striker, and just coming into this fight, it's been interesting to see him talk. He's a very humble guy. I have nothing against the guy, and I wish him the best. But it just sounds like they are counting on that lucky punch to land. They're counting on that straight to land or that left hook to land. So it's been it's been cool to prepare for him as well. Like I said, we have a bunch of killers in our gym and guys that emulate his fighting style quite a bit. So it's been cool to prepare for that and really just hone in that type of fighting style. So I'm really coming out into the fight looking to just show him where we can take the fight. And he thinks I'm just a striker, but I have submission wins. We've taken guys to the ground numerous of times, and him as an athlete kind of reminds me of Joshua Kim in many sense in my contender series fights. Very relaxed, super composed, and we'll see. We'll see if the going gets tough and we go into the later rounds. We'll see how that plays out for him and if he's gonna stay that loose. I doubt it. So coming going into this approach, we've been really focused on bettering every aspect of the game, and we're gonna really take it to him. I think that's where people might underestimate what we're willing to do. Because I'm on a two-fight skid, they think we're gonna play it safe and we're gonna go. We're not gonna do that. That's not how we fight. That's not how we mentally train. And yeah, I'm really gonna take the fight to him.
And then just in terms of goals for this year, of course, first fight of the year layoff. How many times are you hoping, with a win here or whatever the result is here? How
Yeah.
many times can we pretty much expect to see you in this calendar year? And what would be your message to the supporters at home?
Yeah, definitely just going to take it fight for fight for now. I think that's kind of also one of the things that I learned to you quickly make up your schedule at the start of the year and you kind of want to stick to that. I'm not going to force anything. I'm going to listen to my body after this fight. If everything goes well, I'm mentally in the best space I've ever been. So mentally going into a camp would be great. But I have to listen to the body as well. And I think at 24 years old, I'm going to start listening to my body. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I'm planning on having a stellar performance, and then after that, we'll decide. I've had a bunch of call outs as well, which have been great. So maybe we can go to Abu Dhabi. I think that's something that's very appetizing. It's easier travel. It's better for us coming from South Africa, and there's been a bunch of guys making call outs. So we'll see. My focus for now is fully on Malcolm Wellmaker and on the 26th of April.
Absolutely, Cameron. And I know that South African fans cannot wait for this fight. It's going to be an incredible bout, and I want to thank you so much for your time. And to the fans that are watching, do be sure to check out Cameron Saaiman versus Malcolm Wallmaker this weekend at UFC Kansas City. A fight you do not want to miss. Like I said, the South African guys, the CIT boys, they give it 110% every time they step in that octagon. A fight you do not want to miss. Cameron Saaiman, thank you so much for your time. To the fans at home watching, do be sure to check out Cameron Saaiman on social media. I'll be linking his socials in the description down below. It's been me, Dan, from FightWave. Have a great day, guys.